really good. He sends me emails like, there's no video up. I'm like, whoops. So he's a good kid. Plus I got a few other quarantined people, as you can see. So, all right, if you don't know what a proportion is, this is what a proportion is. If you see a phrase like this, 12% of students, or 35% of the Metrolina kids here, something like that, anything with percents. A percent is a proportion. A percent is a proportion. Probably, it can also be written as a fraction, as a ratio. These are proportions. So 12% means, if you were thinking about it, it means 12 out of how many? 100. 12%, 0.12, 12 out of 100, 3 out of 25, right? These are all the same thing. These are all proportions. So you're going to get sentences on tonight's homework that are going to say like, 4 out of 5 people like the Crest toothpaste better than the, Colgate toothpaste, whatever. That's a proportion. 6 out of 7 people like Mrs. Seta. Terrible ratio there, but that's what it'll be. Okay, that's a proportion. They could write it as a percent. Okay, 50% of the population voted for Joe Biden, that kind of thing. That's a proportion. Okay, I know I had to bring it up, but all right. Now there's some new little symbols here. So you're going to have this weird looking P. I would call it like a script P. This is your population proportion. The population proportion. So again, they'd have to tell you something about the population. And then you're going to take a sample. They're going to give you a sample, and they're going to have a samples proportion. They're going to call it looks weird, it's called P hat. That's what it looks like. And they call it P hat because it looks like it has hat on the P. Anyway, isn't it great how mathematicians make these things up? This is called sample proportion. That's for your sample. So, if 50% of the population voted for Joe Biden, we're going to take a sample here at Metrolina of 20 kids and find out that, 8 of them voted for Joe Biden. That's what you're going to be doing. So that kind of thing. To find P hat, you take the X amount of people that, again, we'll go to the voting thing, voted for Joe Biden divided by the total N amount. Or another way that you have probably heard of this is your part, this is your whole. It's to find that sample proportion, you always do part over the whole. You also have to find what's called Q hat. And I'm going to give you the formula for Q hat, but then I'm going to totally tell you how to figure out Q hat in 1 second because it's much easier. But here's the formula, N minus X over N, or 1 minus P hat. Here's the difference between P hat and Q hat. P and Q together must make 100%. That's all. P and Q hat must be 100%. So if I said to you, hey, P hat is 43%, Q hat would be 57%. That's all you have to do. It's 1 minus P hat, so 100%. All right, now, of course, there's this weird looking formula you're about to look into, and you're going to be like, seriously, woman? And you all know that, guess what has it on it? But we still look at the formula, we still write it down because that's how we show people that we know what we're talking about and we're smart, okay? So write this formula down, show your parents how brilliant you are because they will get scared when they look at this formula. Here is the formula to find the confidence interval for a proportion. And and it's super long, so you might want to start to the left. And it starts off like this. P hat minus Z alpha over 2 times, watch it, the square root of P hat Q hat divided by N is equal to the population, is less than, the population proportion, which is less than P hat plus Z alpha over 2 times the square root of P hat Q hat divided by N. You just show your parents and like, don't even tell them what this means. And they'd be like, my child is brilliant. And you're like, I know.
Like, how does,
like, show John.
Wait, is that P hat
Show John.
multiplied?
Yes, it's exactly P hat times Q hat. Exactly. Okay. Now, there is one stipulation about this. And they add this onto it, the N, so the amount of people in your sample times P hat, N times P hat, and N times Q hat has to be greater than or equal to 5. I'm telling you this, that most everything you will do, greater or, sorry about that, greater or equal to 5. I will tell you that all of the problems in our book are the N times the P hat is going to be greater than or equal to 5. And the only reason I'm telling you this, again, from tutoring kids that go into college level, I don't know why the college professor is like, oh, I'm going to throw you one where it's not, ha ha ha. And I'm like, and I remember working with, I think it was Jacob Hadaway. We couldn't get this one right. And then I finally was looking at the formula. I'm like, wait a second. And I multiplied N and P hat and it wasn't equal to 5. It was like 3 point something. I'm like, are you kidding me? And that just comes from, you want to have like 50%, more than 50% or 50% of the population, honestly, something crazy like that. But so don't worry about this. Everything you do will be greater than 5. So don't even freak out. One more thing off about rounding. Round off to 3 decimal places, no matter what. I want all your answers to round off to 3 decimal places. Obviously, you're going to be using your calculator for most of this, so have no fear. But if the calculator doesn't round to 3 decimal places, obviously do whatever the calculator has, so no fret. All right, so take out this second sheet here. We are only doing 1, 2, and 3. You're doing 2 through 12 even tonight, so you don't have that many homework problems. I should be done very cool very soon. There we go. Okay. Let's figure out a few of these together. I need a calculator. Jonathan, I'm borrowing yours. That's why. Sorry. Thank you, honey. You're the best. Okay. A random sample of 150 assault victims in a large city found that 45 took no self-protection actions against the criminal. Find P hat and Q hat, where P hat is the proportion of victims who took no self-protection against the criminal. Okay. P hat. So how many people took no self-action? Out of how many? Go to your calculator. 45 divided by 150 is equal to 0.3, or what percent is that? 30%. Then what would Q hat be? 70%. You just take this away from 100% or 1 whole. Done. You'll have questions like that tonight. Super hard, isn't it? Okay. P hat and Q hat, you can either write it as fractions or percents and whatnot. I'll show you how to do it in the calculator. Calculator asks it a different way. All right, now let's actually do an example here. A survey conducted by Sally Mae. She is your friend who will take up all your money when you go to college. Sally Mae is the loan lady. In Gallup, of 1,404 respondents found that 323 students paid for their education by student loans. Find the 90% confidence interval of the true proportion. Do you see that word right there? Normally, we've been using true mean, haven't we? It's been true mean, true average. This is now proportion of students who paid for their education by student loans, okay? So here are the things that you need. You need P hat, you need Q hat. You need your Z alpha over 2. That was a part of the formula. What else was a part of the formula? Look in your notes. N. Yeah, confidence interval. We might as well let's write that down. Confidence interval anyway. Okay. So P hat. So out of these 1404, how many paid for their education with a student loan? 323. So 323 out of 1404. Agreed? That would be your proportion, your fraction, which 323 divided by 1404 is 0.2300. Just go to 0.23. We're not rounding just yet. We're rounding at the end. So that's 23%. How do I find Q hat then? Subtract from 100. So that would be 77. Is that right? 77.77. Okay. Z alpha over 2 depends on my confidence. I'm at a 90% confidence. So what's the magic number that I use for Z? 1.65. And how many people did I sample in this survey? What was my N?
1404.
Okay. Now again, all you have to do is write the formula. I will show you how to do it in the calculator. So the formula again, you don't have to write this out again, but I'll do it for you because I think it makes you look super smart. Z alpha over 2 times the square root of P hat Q hat over N. And then you do it again. P alpha minus Z, P hat over Z alpha times square root of P hat Q hat over N. So this is what you would write. What would go here for P hat? 0.23 minus, what would go for Z alpha? Andrew, pay attention. 1.65 times square root. What goes here for P hat? 0.23 times 0.77, then divide by the N, which is 1404. And then you would take a square root. Are you thankful I'm not making you do this? Do you know how many mistakes you would get just by that alone? But by showing me this, to me, I'm like, you know what you're talking about, okay? And then obviously you do the plus of this. So P hat plus, or P hat, this is set up. Oopsie, I'm at 0.23. 0.23 plus 1.6. Times the square root of 0.23 times 0.77 over 1,404. All right. You ready to find out where it's at? This is cool. Go to your calculator. Go to stat. Over to test. We are doing Z interval, T interval.
Wait, what?
Right? We've done Z interval.
Oh, I think.
We've done T interval, agreed. Now we're doing a proportion or a prop interval. Do you see one prop Z int?
Yes.
That is your friend. So stat test, it's called one prop Z interval. That's the phrase. Hit enter and let's see what it's going to ask us for. It asks us for our X, excuse me. What's the X in this story? No. Try again. What's the X? What? No. Try again. 323. X over N. This is the X. This is the N. So 323. The N, 1404. What confidence level do I want to be at?
0.9.
9. Hit calculate. It does all the work for you. Look, it even gave me the P hat. You round it to 3.212 to 0.249. You can be 90% sure that this is what this is saying for those who don't understand. I am 90% confident that 21% to 24.9% of students paid for their education with student loans. Education with student loans. So this is not a mean. This is a percentage. This is a proportion. I'm saying that I'm pretty sure that in this group of survey that I just did, that 21 to 24.9% of them paid with student loans. Does that make sense to you? These are not supposed to be whole numbers. If you get whole numbers here, you wrong. You did something wrong. These shouldn't be whole numbers. They should be decimals because they are percentages. These are proportions. All right. One more. We're done. Hopefully this is making sense a little bit. Move on up. Last one. A survey of 6,000 adults found that 58% of them say that they would like to take a ride in a fully self-driving car. Would you be one of those people?
Not at all.
On a Tesla? I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm not there yet. Find the 90% confidence interval that the true proportion who said that they would take a ride in a self-driving car. Okay, let's write this out. Good old P hat, good old Q hat, good old Z alpha over 2, my N, my CI. My confidence interval is 90%. So that's pretty easy to do. What's my N? Let's work backwards here. How many things? How many people? 6,000. What's my Z alpha over 2? It's the same again, right? 1.65? All right, now notice what they did here. They changed it up on me. What's my P hat and my Q hat now? It's not a fraction, but I could make it a fraction. What's my P hat and my Q hat? Yeah, so my P hat is what? 58%. So 0.58. So what would Q hat be? 0.42. So when I go to put this in, I'm going to put this in to just write my proportion. I put my P hat, which is 0.58, minus my Z alpha over 2, 1.65, times the square root of P hat times Q hat divided by N. And I write that thing again, except with a plus, to show me that you know what you're talking about. I know it's annoying, I really do, but you have no idea. You're showing people how smart you are. And now, here's my problem. Because when you go to one prop Z, go back there, stat, test, one prop Z interval. What's my N?
6,000.
Confidence level 90, but what's my X? You know it, you can figure it out. How you getting it? Good job, Jenna. How'd you do it? Because I was expecting Colin to do it.
Multiply 6,000.
That's exactly it. Let me say that again. What would you say? 3,480. How did you do that? If 58% of 6,000. Your X is equal to 58% of 6,000 people. I think you can even type it in. Let me make sure. I think you can go like this. Yeah, look at that. The calculator did it for me. Did you see what I just did? I'll do it again. 0.58 times 6,000 people, because it's 58% of the 6,000, 3,480.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Hit calculate. Proportion, they give it to me, is between 0.56952 to 0.59048. I'm just writing it all out because my calculator's accurate. And then I would just say, I am 90% confident that 56.9% to 59.0% of people would take a ride in a self-driving car. That is ridiculous. In a self-drive, I mean, honestly, raise your hand if you would take it right now. I just want to see if there's 50% in the class that would do it. Oh, okay. I just wouldn't without all the things that are going on. Oh, why do you have to argue against everything, Keegan? Tish.
That's true.
It's so true. Everything.
Not to me, though. We agree on the
I'll stop arguing when I stop eating.
Oh.
Nah, he's wrong, because he don't want to go. Alright, if it's malfunctioning,
He'll
what's
stop
gonna
arguing
happen?
when he's dead.
All right, you've got 25 minutes to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And I'll tell you, I think the first 3 are just find P hat, find Q hat, find this hat. I mean, it's not that hard,
We turn it on Monday.
okay? I'd like you to at least do half of these, because I need you to get it too, Andrew. You weren't even paying attention to me the whole time.
When I got it, I'm like, got it.
Did you get it done? Did you get it done? All right. Oh, wait, let me stop this. Yes.